Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist congregation. I don't think I have to tell you to turn off your cell phones or any other electronic devices. Please keep your electronic devices on so that you can enjoy this service. This congregation welcomes all people, regardless of their age, religion, race, nationality, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or anything else that has been used to divide people. We are a group of people with our own opinions, our own ideas, our own dreams, but we share ideals. We share a common belief in a liberal religion. In our discussions, we may disagree with each other, but we must always remember that what unites us is stronger than what separates us. We must always depart from each other, aware of the love that we have for each other.
Today, we begin our cycle of the discussion of the principles of the Unitarian Universalist Association, again, with the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Notice that the way this is phrased in the whole thing is, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Of all of our principles, this is one that perhaps most often shows up in articles in the UU World magazine and things of this nature, with people saying, I believe in the first principle, but I have trouble applying it to such and such a category of person. Because it is difficult for us always to recognize that every person has some inherent worth and dignity, and yet it's basic to the philosophy of life that many of us share that makes us want to come to a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And now I will invite Leo Martland to come and light the chalice. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, bring to us beauty, vision, and joy.
In greening lands begins the song, which deep in human hearts is strong. In cheerful strains your voices raise, to fill the whole spring world with praise. Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like, when you're older, must appease him, and promises of can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle again. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town, and they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet too slow, the circle's down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle again. So the years spin by, and now the boy is 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true, there'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams, and plenty before the last revolving year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle again. And go round and round and round in the circle
Please remember that at this time, as much as at any other, the congregation needs your contributions to keep working. You have bills to pay, wages to pay. The congregation needs people who've pledged to pay on their pledges. We hope that there may be some fundraising events coming eventually in the course of the year. So far, it hasn't been safe to do these face-to-face. If you're able to make a small additional contribution in lieu of fundraising, that would certainly be appreciated as well. There is also outdoor work to be done. There may be some clerical and similar work that can be done. You can also help with the pastoral care work of simply keeping in touch with other members of the congregation, because the congregation exists as a way to help us support each other, and helping to do that is a contribution as well. Both money and services are needed. Let us now, in the silence that's coming, remember everybody, each other and ourselves, who could use a little help. Everybody who has things that might be troubling to think about, anybody who might have things that are outright bad. And let's remember people who've had things that are good and joyful happen to them. And let's think of that in the silence and while singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of
In case you're wondering who I am and why I'm speaking today, I'm Rex Campbell. I'm attend the church here, and the reason I'm speaking is that Julie Young nagged me into it. But seriously, Julie does a great job of arranging all the speakers that we have, bringing in the very interesting people, and I hope that after today her reputation's still intact. What I want to talk to you today about is happiness. I kind of titled my talk, The 74-Year Circle of Happiness, but then when I put the title down, I realized that that circle's not complete yet. I'm 74, but I sure hope the circle isn't complete. So maybe I should have come up with a little different title. Anyway, I'm like everybody else. I've been home and I've had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to reminisce and just try to figure out what it is that has made my life happy. I think that most of us are probably born happy. You know, we're born to people that love us. We're born in a situation where we're fed. We're born with shelter. Most of all, I'm going to show you this, we're born just so darn cute that people forgive us everything that we do wrong. It's when we grow older and we start to see the people around us and the things that they have that we don't have, the things that they can do that we can't do, the places they can go that we can't go, that we begin to experience unhappiness. Unhappiness and happiness both to me are emotions. We let our emotions control us sometimes, and I think that's what happiness and unhappiness are. Anyway, just like most any subject that captures my attention, I start digging into it a little deeper and I start looking for things to explain why and how. And I found a quote that I really liked. Nathaniel Hawthorne, he once said, "Happiness is a butterfly which, when if pursued, it is always just beyond your reach, but which, if you will sit quietly, it may alight upon you." I kind of like that thought. I think that happiness may be something we can't change, it just kind of comes to us. Remember that I mentioned all the little babies being happy a little while ago? Well, they sure are. They're sitting and waiting for that butterfly to land on them. Isn't it sad we don't get to stay that way? Well, I promised you 74 years of happiness, and I've only talked about 2 or 3 years so far, so we're going to get on a roll here in a minute. I was born July 12, 1946, and for me that was probably the easiest day of my life. My family already had 3 girls and 1 boy, and I came home to experienced parents, 3 older sisters that were just waiting to take care of me, and an older brother that was just glad he didn't get another sister. But I have to tell you here that there was an event that happened the next day that probably precipitated some of the first unhappy moments of my life. My parents were broke. They were so broke that my mom only spent 1 day in the hospital, and they couldn't afford the $1 bill that it cost to get the official certificate of birth that had the little footy prints on the back of it. My other brothers and sisters had that, and I never did. And quite frequently they would tell me that either mom and dad didn't want to bring me home, or that I had been adopted and they just didn't get it. Anyway, that was probably my first experience with unhappiness, was them flaunting their birth certificates at me. I have to be honest and tell you, I don't really remember many times in my life that I've had prolonged periods of unhappiness. There have been times when I didn't get the piece of candy that I wanted, or the cake that I wanted in the early years, and that made me unhappy. But it wasn't anything really important or really significant. My first real brush with unhappiness probably came when I was 6 years old and ready to start school. All the rest of the kids in the neighborhood, Jack and Davy and Kurt, Lex, and all the girls that I really didn't want to be around, were going to school. But not me. I got appendicitis. And in those days, when they operated on you for appendicitis, you spent about 5 days flat on your back in bed, no lifting, no walking, no nothing. And then you spent another week or week and a half recuperating at home before you were allowed to become a person again. So 2 weeks wasn't bad. I was still going to be able to start, just started a little bit late, but lo and behold, all of a sudden I had a strep infection. And that set me back another 2 weeks. I was devastated. I wasn't going to get to go to school with those kids in my neighborhood that I played with. They were going to be right ahead of me. I whined and I cried and I begged and I pleaded, and my mom finally agreed that we would go to the school. We would talk to the first grade teacher, Mrs. Woolley, and see if I could go ahead and start. Mrs. Woolley evidently liked what she saw, because she said, yeah, she would let me start 2 weeks or 4 weeks late, and I did, and I eventually caught up, and I graduated with Kurt and Jack and the others that I wanted to. That's my first brush with unhappiness. I've had several others. You know, I've lost girlfriends. I've had deaths in the family. I've wrecked a car or two and was unhappy about it. But I don't ever remember any long, long periods of sadness. And when I think about this, it's caused me to dig a little deeper and to see if I can find out why it is that some people seem to be geared toward happiness and others have trouble attaining it. I think that environment has something to do with it. I think that if you're raised in a good home, you're well fed, you're loved, you're cared for, and you're going to be happy. You have a good chance of being happy. Some of science says that 50% of whether we're happy or sad is genetic. And I sort of have to agree with that. When I look around at the people I know and the ones that I associate with, I find that about half of them are basically happy people, and the other half, it takes a little more to get them up and get them going and get them to feeling good about life and themselves in general. That leaves us with about 20% maybe that we control. And I think perhaps that's our attitude toward life. What the part that we can control, whether we're going to be happy or not, is whether or not we want to be happy. You know, race, economic class, education, all the rest of it seems to have little impact on the percentages. They all seem to apply to everybody. Okay, now I want to take you down a little bit of a different path. I have a few questions that I'd like each of you to ask yourselves. Number one, ask yourself, do I need to be happy? Number two, how do I find happiness? And number three, is happiness sustainable? While you think about that, I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm number 5 of 11 children. Neither my mother or father graduated high school. I grew up 4 miles outside of town. My dad was gone to work. We never had a car to go anywhere. Our house didn't have running water, and we heated with coal stoves. Only had 3 bedrooms to house 13 people. I never had a bed of my own until I grew up and left home. Let me flip the coin a little bit now and tell you this. My mother was always home when I went to school, and she was there when I came home from school. We were fed, we were clothed, and we were healthy because my father wouldn't allow it to be any other way. He would do whatever it took to make sure that happened. That in mind, I may have grown up financially poor, but I grew up rich with happiness. So at this point, I'm going to take a little time and I'm going to tell you a couple of personal stories just to illustrate what I told you about myself. Years ago, I was about 12. My brother younger than I, Bob, was about 9, and neither one of us had jackets to wear to school. my dad had been laid off from the coal mines and he didn't have the money to buy us jackets, but his best childhood friend ran an illegal poker game in Sullivan. And when Dad would get laid off, Fat Savage would put my dad in charge of that poker game, and Dad would play the house hand and collect the house share of the pot. The house got 10% out of every pot. So on Saturday night, my dad had a good night. He won quite a bit, and whatever he won for the house, Fat Savage would split with him 50-50. And whatever he collected for the house at 25%, he got to keep 50% of that. And Dad had a good night, and they broke for lunch, or for supper, quit playing poker, and it was a wintertime evening. J.C. Penney was in town and was still open that late in the evening, and Dad went there and bought Bob and I coats. The poker game lasted way into the early hours of the morning, and he started coming home in the middle of a snowstorm. He got stuck in a ditch, but he got out and he brought those coats and he carried them home. And the next morning when we awakened, my brother and I had brand new coats. You'd think that would be the end of the story, but being kids, we don't realize how things can be damaging. And we kids had made tunnels in the haystacks in the barn. And yours truly put on his brand new coat and crawled through those tunnels of hay, wearing out the elbows in his coat. So, years before patches became popular on the elbows of jackets, I had the privilege for the next 2 years of wearing a coat to school with patches on the elbows. But what I want you to understand out of that was the necessities. It was necessary for my father to do something illegal to feed us. It didn't really harm anybody, but it was against the laws. He did it, and he fed us, and he clothed us. It was necessary for my mother to patch the elbows on that jacket, and it was necessary for me to wear it, and I've never forgotten it. And I still hate patches. Moving on a little bit. I've been lucky in life. I've reached the point of total satisfaction. I've been blessed with a wonderful family, parents, brothers and sisters. We had enough. We all got along. A wife that's great, and a child that makes me proud when I walk. I will admit to struggling with other relationships, but eventually I seem to have found a spiritual home here at the Unitarian Universalist Church, and that allows me to claim a little bit of success even spiritually. So, the next question is happiness sustainable? I don't really think so. I believe happiness is an emotion, and like other emotions, it ebbs and it flows. The well-cooked steak makes you happy, but the tear in your favorite shirt puts tears in your eyes. Losing your brother is devastating. Seeing your child graduate from college is great, but then when you have to help him pack up to move 800 miles away, boy, that's a real downer. But if happiness isn't sustainable, what is it that causes me to feel good about my life? I believe it's been finding meaning in what I do. How one discovers meaning for oneself, I'm not sure, but I do believe when one finds a vocation or an activity that at the end of the day allows them to look at themselves in the mirror and say, I accomplished something. I feel good about what I did. I believe they found meaningfulness, and with meaningfulness, a happy life is going to follow. Folks, for me, 74 years from birth to now has been populated with intervals of joy and agony, but filled with accomplishments that make me proud. That describes my life. I think the happiness came when I knew I was successful, and the sadness came when I perceived failures. Both made me grow. Both are who I am. and both have left me old, contented, and appreciative of everything that is allowing me to relax and enjoy life. I get to share what I have with those I can still serve. And life, my friends, is good. Find your purpose, set your goals, make your life meaningful, treasure every moment, and be happy. I'm going to end with one little thing. Sam's been skipping announcements, but I do have an announcement to make. Come Monday night, we're going to try to bring a little happiness into everybody's life that wants to. Doris and I are going to be here at the church from 7 till 9 or 10 or whatever. We're going to have a campfire, and we invite all of you to come. Bring your chairs, bring your refreshments, stay a while, stay all night. But let's do some social distancing. Masks and 6-foot poles are recommended. But come Monday night, if it rains, we'll do it Tuesday. And let's see if we can bring some happiness back into our lives. Thank you.
Goes and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way, but now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at
Next Sunday's service features Carl Martland coming in, recorded from northern New Hampshire. The Sunday after that, I believe it is planned to hold a virtual coffee hour by Zoom at the usual service time. May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illumine illuminate your heart, now and forevermore. Go in peace and know that you are loved and that your life is sacred.